Welcome to These Things Are Written. Glad you're joining us today as we begin a new book, the book of the Gospel of Luke. And as we go through this gospel, we're going to take it slow, go through different sections. It's going to go all the way through the through a couple weeks into Easter, after Easter. So pretty much all the way through the month of April. The next 5 months, we'll be hitting this book. The book of Luke is the one that our church will be using mainly this year. Not the only gospel, not the only book, but the main gospel that will be read. So I thought it would be a good time to go through this book, verse by verse, helping us to be able to understand what it means. I hope you join us. This first chapter actually is going to be one that we do focus on a little bit more than the rest, because as we focus on this first chapter, it leads into the Christmas narrative that we will hit then on the week before Christmas. So let's get started. Luke chapter 1, we're going to start today with verses 1 through 4. Inasmuch as many have undertaken to compile a narrative of the things that have been accomplished among us, just as those who from the beginning were eyewitnesses and ministers of the word have delivered them to us, it seems good to me also, having followed all things closely for some time past, to write an orderly account for you, most excellent Theophilus, that you may have certainty concerning the things you have been taught. So first of all, as we look at this, we need to understand who is Luke. We know from the book of Acts that he is a traveling companion for the Apostle Paul. He went with Paul, joined Paul right before he went over to Philippi in Macedonia. Some say that Paul was part of the vision that that Luke was part of the vision that Paul had when he had that vision of a man calling him to go to Macedonia. So anyway, that's where the narrative in the book of Acts changes from he to we. Next, he is Greek. The name is a Greek name. He is well educated. His Greek is some of the more difficult Greek in the New Testament, second only to the Apostle Paul, I would say. Some say that he was a doctor, perhaps because of his education, perhaps because that is what tradition said, and maybe it's because of the use of the terminology, also the medical terminology that he used when describing some of the illnesses or disease. Nothing in the Bible that states he was a doctor, but that's a common thought. Now, also another common thought is that he wrote to the Greeks, those that Paul went out to proclaim the gospel to is also the ones that that Luke wrote to this gospel for, to help them know and understand. And as we read through the prologue, we saw that it was what he was doing there would be very good for the Greek hearers and readers. So let's take a look at it a little bit. The prologue here that we have, these first 4 verses, describe the purpose of this work, of this book that Luke is writing. He says that others have done so. And as others have done so, they were eyewitnesses and ministers of the word delivered to us, right? Matthew, Mark. They were before Luke, written before Luke, and they all were eyewitness accounts. But he says, I've been following these things closely for some time as well. And it's time for me to write an orderly account. It's time for me to write what I know. An orderly account would be something that would be that the Greeks would be very interested in. That order, the almost what we call the scientific process, the reasoning, the logic, the the rhetoric that he would have. So he is writing this in a style that the Greeks would be able to understand and to know that he did his research. And we see this a lot with Luke, even in the Christmas narrative, even in the first chapter, he uses people time, when people were ruling, he has connections to show that this is more than just a story. This is what happened. And he's writing an orderly account so that they can be certain, that Theophilus can be certain of the things that he had been taught. Now, who is this Theophilus guy? Well, the word is a Greek name. It's not a common name, but it is the definition of it is lover of God, right? So this Theophilus is a Greek who loves God. Now, he could easily be a person, or he could be a pseudonym that Luke is writing to. The Greeks who are lovers of God, for example. So all Greeks who fall into that category. And he's writing it to one person. So each of them might feel that the letter is being written to them. That's one of the possibilities. But like I said, it could be that it is written to an actual man named Theophilus. We don't know for certain. Different opinions in different contexts, different commentaries tend to lean one way or the other. Well, I've already gone over 6 minutes on these first 4 verses, so I'm going to wrap it up. And I invite you back tomorrow as we start digging into the birth narrative, the leading up to the birth of Jesus as we see in chapter 1. I hope you'll join me then. God bless.